American Water Polo.
Hi, this is Damon Newman from American Water Polo, and we're here today with Ted Minnis to better understand the recruiting process at Harvard University. How you doing, Ted?
I'm doing well. Good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, good to see you too. Hope you're holding up and things are going okay.
Yeah, I can. It's a little rainy here in Boston today, but otherwise, it hasn't been too bad.
All right, good stuff. So tell me a little bit about yourself and obviously Harvard.
I'm from Northern California. Got the job here at Harvard 10 years ago. The Friends of Harvard Water Polo head coach. I coach both the men and the women. I think for me, our program is built on family, and I think that's a big part of who I am, and I care more about my kids out of the pool than I do in the pool. And I think when we get those things going in the recruiting process and bring these kids into our program, you just have a little more success because they're not just that chess piece to win you a championship.
Right, right. You know them on a personal level. You're invested in them outside of the pool. I think that's a really important thing.
It is important to me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I would agree. I would agree. You got to build the foundations of family and because if you're going to ask these athletes to go to the wall for you, right? You really have to have a good relationship.
Yeah, and I think kids these days, student athletes these days, they want to have it all. And I think that's one of the things that an Ivy League education can give you in Ivy League athletics. You can be the best in the water and you can be the best in the classroom, and you can compartmentalize both of those things and kind of make your way through your day.
Good. Yeah. That's it. That's having the best of both worlds. I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
So how does the process work? Take me through a little bit about what your process is and what PSA's process is on the back.
Yeah, so for us, we started off with evaluations, through your end of your sophomore year, summer of going into your junior year. My assistant coaches are out watching those age groups, and I'm working the class above. We go all over the place. We'll hit Chicago, Florida, the California ones, Northeast zone qualifiers and all that stuff. We just love getting out and watching water polo. June 15th is the first time that we're able to have contact with the prospective student athlete. And that's when we can have text messages, phone calls, emails with them or their parents. Before that, we're not allowed to have any contact with them on or off campus. And I think that's the new rule that changed about a year ago. And I think it's important to understand, like, if a sophomore before June 15th sends me an email, I can't respond to that email because it's not until June 15th am I allowed to do that. So we get through the summer and we get those first contacts, and then for us it's about gathering academic information. We want to get their test scores, get their transcripts, talk to them about what the test should look like, when you should take your tests, and all those kinds of things. And we want to get to know them again. It's building that family. So we spend a lot of time trying to get to know our prospective student athletes and get to know them out of the pool. What do they like to do besides play water polo, besides go to school? I always say, you're made up of more than just a water polo student athlete. There's more to you. And finding out what these kids outside of the pool do is pretty cool sometimes.
Yeah. The extracurriculars and all that things that make them tick, besides water polo are obviously really important.
Yeah.
So what you talked a little bit about when the process starts, obviously on the recruiting rules for coaches. So you see freshmen and sophomore reaching out to you. When would you recommend, I guess, a PSA start the process early or wait, or how would you go about them, recommending them to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think getting out there early is okay, but you don't want to get out there too early. I think starting to think about composing your email now, in end of April, beginning of May, and, you know, sending your academic information to these coaches and going on their websites and filling out their online questionnaires to get into their databases. Like, this is the time to do that. Like I said, we're not going to be able to respond back to it. So when I get those emails from the freshmen and sophomores, I just slide it over into an email folder that has class of, right now, if it's, you know, if they're rising sophomore, they're rising juniors, they're class of 2022. So I'm just sliding them over into that file. And then once we hit June 15th, we'll start going through it and contacting kids.
Right, right. So also probably potentially is having a good understanding of those rules. You know, when you are a PSA, to not get too frustrated if someone doesn't reach out to you.
Right.
So to really kind of what those restrictions might be.
Right. And not expect an email back right away. I mean,
Right.
you know, for me, I can speak for my case. Like, I coach 2 teams, and so I'm getting twice as many emails from PSAs, and so, you know, I try to respond as quickly as I can. Sometimes it takes a little while to get back to them. So don't get offended if you don't hear back right away.
Right, right. Yeah, like you said, you're doing, the off season for the men and vice versa, the in season for the women. So you're balancing pretty much 2 seasons at the same time, right?
Right.
So you and then on top of it, you have all the recruiting responsibilities and and on the paperwork and all the administrative side that goes along with
Oh yeah.
so,
Oh yeah.
it can be challenging. So be patient.
Yeah, be patient. That's exactly right. Like, I mean, most coaches are going to get back to you as quickly as they can, or they try to, at least. And sometimes it does slip through, you know, the cracks. And I would say, don't take it personal, and feel like reaching out again is not a bad thing.
Right. So be proactive but patient at the same time.
Correct.
Perfect. So, how would you recommend an athlete prepare for a phone conversation? Say, they're either going to, reach out to the coach for the first time, or maybe they've exchanged emails before. How would you say that, PSA should prepare?
Yeah, I think the key word there is prepare.
Right.
You know, I think have a conversation with your parents and write down a list of questions that you want answered. When kids come on campus for us, the parents always are like, I want them to take care of this process themselves. I'm going to let them do it. I'm like, no, please come up into the office, you know, come and have this conversation with us, because you're as much a part of this process as they are, and you're going to help them make these decisions. And they're going to come up and sit down and start having a conversation with me, and they're going to be like, no, I don't think I have anything else. And they're going to come back, and you're going to say, did you ask this? And, oh no, that's the one I forgot to ask. Oh, I was going to ask that one. But so I think it's always important to make sure that you're interacting with your parents on what kind of questions they're going to want answered too, and have a list. Don't just rely on memory. Because it does get a little overwhelming sometimes when you sit down face to face with the coach and you're having those conversations. They say, so what kind of questions do you have for me?
Right, right, yeah, right. So those are all really great nuggets of just being prepared, and you have a list. There's nothing wrong with writing things down. I do it all the time, right? I think I've seen you coaching, and you look at that list and you go, oh, this is what I wanted to do here and here and here, right? I mean, there's nothing.
That infamous paper everyone always asks me about.
So with the COVID outbreak and the loss for some large tournaments being rescheduled or some of them being canceled, what should a PSA do to be seen?
Yeah, so that's the $1 million question, my friend.
Right.
And I think we're all, as college coaches, still trying to navigate, and it's changing. The NCAA is changing things constantly. They're coming out with new rules and regulations to go along with these Zoom calls, and who we can talk to on Zoom, and how many people we can talk to, and all that. And so for me, I think I don't want to see your highlight films anymore, because, like, I'm not going to get out to see you play. For me, when I would watch a highlight film, I'd watch a minute, 2 minutes. Am I going to go watch this kid play, or am I not going to go watch this kid play? Those
Right.
are kind of what the highlight films. Now I would like to see a game. Maybe a full game, maybe half a game, but a full quarter, unedited. Maybe throw a little arrow like this is you, or tell me where what number you are, and every once in a while come back in an arrow so I can keep following you.
Right.
But I want to see what you do in a full game. I want to see how you play defense. I want to see how you react when you make a mistake. All of those things I think are important when you're evaluating these players. And so we're losing that without all these big tournaments that are going on. So we have to kind of be creative on how we're doing that. I spend my morning watching video that's been sent to me. So I watched 3 games this morning of kids that have sent me, and I sit here and I write down my notes like I would be on a pool deck. And then when we have our staff meetings, we go through those kids that I watched and we talk about what our thoughts are and how we're going to progress.
Great. So more game film, less highlights,
Yeah.
and more stuff that you can look at and say, I want to be able to see the good and also maybe the not so good, or
Yeah.
the reaction to how, maybe the reaction to adversity, right?
Yeah. I always tell the story. I got a highlight film, and it was off the lineup. And the player sprints off the lineup, they turn and they catch the ball and they score it. And it was a guy, and you know how the guys, when they score, they do a little bounce turn. And it bounced turn and the camera followed them, and it said 19-0 on the scoreboard. I was like, well, what are you showing me here?
Right.
Okay, you can score in an 18-0 game off of a lineup. That's great. But what are you going to do at the next level?
Yeah.
So I think, seeing games is going to be more helpful for us through this process now.
Right. Okay. Well, that's great. Yeah. Get some game film, whether it's a full game or a quarter, or maybe something you really did well. Maybe it's a couple minutes of, you playing really well, or something along those lines.
Yeah. And I think now you're seeing coaches are doing so much more with video,
right,
and with huddle and all that stuff. And so I think as a coach, you should be very proactive with your players about getting games to them and how you can get your game film into their hands for coaches to see too. I think we can't be so hidden with what we have anymore. We have to, none of us are reinventing the wheel. So
right, yeah, it's all out there, and the utilize all the tools, the technology tools that coaches have right now to get yourself. Not to get off topic, but I know you guys your women's team was in Australia at the beginning of this year, right?
Yeah. We were very lucky, that we got to do our Australia trip at the beginning of January. We were there for, I think, 12 days.
Wow.
It was a great experience. We came back. We had our Harvard invite on March 7th and 8th, and it was our last home games of the year. And we actually had our senior game on March 7th.
Okay.
And March 8th, the season ended. That was our last game. So we were pretty lucky. We had that experience of getting to go to Australia, and we were able to celebrate our seniors with their families on the pool deck with the videos. Right. And all that stuff. So, as sad as it is that our season was over, we've talked a lot about making lemonade out of the lemons. And part of it was we got this Australia trip, and we got to celebrate our seniors, and that was special.
Right. If it had to end there, it ended pretty well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we were 12-2. I was very happy with the way we were playing, and we were in a tough conference, and I was excited to get into conference play and see how the lessons we had learned in Australia and leading up to that point were able to play out. We should have been just finishing up conference this week, so it's a little sad when you think about that. Our staff will be texting like, we should have been at Princeton this weekend playing. We should be at Brown this weekend, but
Things have taken precedence sometimes.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah. It was the right decision, as we know now.
Yeah. So, what advice can you give me? What advice can you give a PSA that wants to play in college, that might not have the opportunity to play it? Maybe those it seems like you do a lot of recruiting, but maybe some of the larger tournaments, or maybe doesn't play it. Maybe a big club with a big name.
Yeah.
How do they become seen, or what would you recommend them doing?
Yeah, I think the one thing that's great about our sport is there's so many opportunities to play at the college level, whether you're playing Division I, Division II, Division III, club. There's so many opportunities to play. And getting out to camps is a great way to be seen. College coaches do their own camps at their schools. They go to these super camps, 5-meter camps, all those kinds of things all around the country. So those are great opportunities to be seen by coaches. I think the other thing is making sure that you're telling coaches where you're going to be. Like, hey, we're going to be at this, my club team is going to be at this tournament in case you're going to be there. The Olympic Development Program puts on a lot of events. That's another opportunity. If you do that, to be seen, you're going to get a lot of college coaches out at that. The event that you put on in July is a great event. You get college coaches to come out to that. That's another great way to be seen. I think just playing and letting these college coaches know where you're going to be, one, is a great way. And I think another way, a great way is, because there's so many opportunities, don't limit yourself by what you think is the best program or what is the best school. Like, I think you really need to look at everything when you're going through this process. Like, what school is a fit for me for school? Because, I mean, you and me have been doing this a long time, Damon, and we're very lucky to make a living in water polo, but there's not a lot of jobs like this out there where you're going to be able to retire and say, hey, I don't have to work another day of my life because of water polo. Yeah. And so you want to make sure that the school is going to be a fit. And so there's a lot of small colleges out there, and making sure you're contacting them and looking at them. Schools you might not even think about. I think California kids always are thinking about, like, it's only in California. Well, there's a lot of great schools outside of California that have water polo, as you know. You went to a good one with one of my good friends coaches out there in New York, right? So
yeah,
you can give him a little plug on mine. I'm okay with that.
I'm still his callback, so.
You could be waiting. We all know how he is. Love him to death, but we know how it works. But I think that's a big thing is as you're going through this process and trying to pick the school, it shouldn't just be water polo that you're picking a school for, because there are a lot of options to play water polo. You should be looking at what's going to help you for the next 40 years of your life, right? That's what it should be all about.
Right. Yeah. I think that's great advice. It's something well said.
Sure.
Yeah. So, final question, what's a day in the life of a student athlete look like at Harvard?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's for us, it's typical. It's going to be different in season and out of season. It's very typical of a
right.
student athlete in season, because, we're going to be like any other Division I program. They're going to get up and do their classes and come and do their lifts and get in practice and their film study and all that stuff in season. I think we're a little unique with our housing system and all that stuff. So most of our students, almost, I'd say 99% of our student, 95, I think is the correct number, that live on campus.
Yeah.
So living in the houses and in the dining halls and stuff like that is a big part of the Harvard experience. Out of season, it's going to be a little different. We're not going to have as many hours as everybody else does in the Ivies. So the Ivy League rules still play effect to Princeton, Brown, and us and how we do things out of season. And you're going to have, 6 hours a week for a good part of your spring or your fall. And then you're going to get into your 5 weeks of 10 hours, which is 24 hours of practice 3 times a week. No more than 2 hours for that 5 weeks. So the commitment is not quite as much. And then you're gonna have more time to take some different classes and kind of have that college experience where water polo is a part of it, but it's not all of it.
So if an athlete is interested in Harvard, what should they do? What's the next step?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is to go on gocrimson.com and fill out our questionnaire and send an email to one of the coaches and we can go from there.
Great. Excellent, Ted. You know what? It's been a pleasure
Thank you so much.
Learning more about Harvard University and obviously learning more about yourself. This is Damon Newman from American Water Polo. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, on our website, AmericanWaterPolo.org. And remember, it's important to stay connected to what's important to you.